Hi, I guess if you're listening, you're affected by migraines. Maybe you just want to see another video of me walking through a drain. Yeah, so anyone that knows me personally knows I get fucking migraines. I've looked at a few videos lately just to see what experts have got to say. And I notice a lot of them say it's alright, it only lasts for half an hour or up to an hour. They're talking about the blurred vision, ocular migraine, which is what I get. The blurred vision and the colours, which is the first symptom. But a lot of the specialists say, if you're driving, just pull over and relax for half an hour. And, I've had a couple even say, enjoy the light show or whatever. The problem is the headache that comes after it, if you're unlucky enough to get a headache. I remember once I took silage around to some drains in Melbourne, and I wasn't really feeling that well suddenly, and we got to the pillars at Norfolk Golf Course, and he kept going up the drain, and I sat there at the pillars, and when he came back I said, shit, I'm getting a migraine, we have to get back to my house. I think he only had his P plates at the time, learners even, and we started driving home, and this migraine was getting worse, which I'll try and chuck some footage up here. This blurred vision comes across your eye, and I was saying to Silogen, you need to tell me if there's any cars in front of me or whatever. I can't see properly. Through my peripheral I could see, there's cars stopped at traffic lights, and I'd be like, are you going to tell me that there's cars stopped? And he was like, oh, you mean you can't see anything? Anyway, that was basically the whole way home. I was like, is that a car in front of me? And he's like, oh yes. Another time a bunch of us were going, I think it was Wes, Flirt, Saipan, going up the coast to Newcastle. I think we're going to meet up with Note and some other guys. Just as we're about to leave, I got this friggin' migraine and had to sit in the car. I was lying in the back, but it fucked me up bad. Anyway, I'll explain how I deal with migraines and my theory on how maybe migraines played a big part in CaveClan forming and urban exploration taking off earlier than it would have in Australia if I didn't get migraines. I was playing indoor cricket once when I was younger, because I've been getting migraines since puberty. Almost like that time of the month. Yeah, and I'd get cluster migraines, so if I got one, I'd often get two or three, so I'd be rooted for like the best part of a week. Yeah, playing indoor cricket, got a migraine, couldn't see it. I wanted to go, but everyone's like, oh, you gotta stay. I stood in the back corner of the net fielding, and the batsman smashed the ball, and it wedged in between. I had my arms folded, and it wedged in between my arm and my chest. And I actually caught him out, which was, 100% tin ass. Another time playing real cricket, and I'd already batted, but sometimes in the smaller cricket, you'll umpire. Started getting a friggin' migraine. I couldn't see. There was a chance to run out. My teammates, they appealed, they all screamed, and I said not out. I couldn't actually see, but I could tell he was out. I could just stuck in my head all these decades later, like this guy saying, this is why it's shit that we don't have proper umpires, because they won't give their mates out and that. Another time I was playing footy, I was just starting, and I started getting a migraine, and I told the coach I can't play, and he's like, you got to play, and I played, and for some reason, it's like a mental thing. It's happened a few times where it's almost like I could hold it off. I didn't get the migraine until the end of the game, but I played quite a good game. At Merch, where CaveClan in Melbourne, CaveClan quite often camp there from sort of Boxing Day to New Year's on the Goulburn River. I remember logging on, sitting over on the log in the river, having a beer, and the sun was shining into the water and reflecting into my eyes, and that's one of the triggers for me, is bright light. So quite often when we're in drain, someone with a bright headlamp or torch will shine it in my eyes. That can actually trigger migraines for me too. So I've dealt with migraines all my life. I used to have this tablet called CaveClan, which, some people say that caffeine can give you migraines, but with me, I think it's the opposite. I think that helps, but I don't drink coffee. Anyway, I had this tablet, CaveClan, which seemed to help with nothing really stops the actual colours and the weird feeling and all that. CaveClan seemed to help with the headache. Anyway, they made this medication. It was really expensive, and really like 2 tablets were like $25, which would be like $50 nowadays, I guess. But they didn't work for me. They worked for like 85% of people. So all the other, like CaveClan and things like that, The only way I could get that was to get it specially made. So I just started having Panadeine Forte. So basically, when I was really, really young, I used to get these weird, I don't know, kind of like nightmares where I just feel really sick and nauseous. And I would picture going through some kind of tunnel thing. I never really thought much of it, but it stuck in my mind that I had these 2 or 3 times where, and I kind of felt like I was sliding through a concrete pipe. And even at a school camp once, I remember waking up in the morning, I had this feeling like I was going to vomit and this pounding headache. And years later, but when I was a teenager, I got my first migraine and I didn't know what the fuck was going on. I went up onto the school oval and I was lying down. Finally I made my way home, like could hardly see crossing traffic and things like that. Got home and I told my mother, I can't see and I've got all these colours and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh, you got a migraine, get into bed, I'll get you some tablets and I'll get you a face washer and all this sort of stuff. And that was my first migraine. So yeah, I've always had this thing about tunnels, and my oldest memory is yeah, as I said, the which I found out later were migraine. I must have got these early migraines for some reason. When I first started getting migraines, I did sort of get this kind of Doctor Who tunnel effect. So when you listen to these things about migraines, they're quite often like, oh yeah, it's pretty colours, or it's colours. Yeah, just they'll go in half an hour or so. But the thing is, that blurred vision, that's a warning. So I've had people say, how do I get through work? What tips have you got? As soon as I see those colours, get into a dark room, face washer on the head. For me, a couple of cold cans of Coke. I take Panadeine Forte, which doctors won't give you. They don't help migraines, and they don't help migraines, but they're talking about the colours and all that. I'm talking about the hangover from a migraine. No medication has actually stopped the hangover. The Cafagot was good. What I find, which helps with the hangover, is jump in the bed, no lights on, face washer on my head, 2 cans of Coke. I just take normal Panadol or whatever now, but I take like 3 of them. And then a few hours later I take another 3. Like I'm a big guy. That's probably too many for a lot of people. I'm not even suggesting you do this. I'm just saying what works for me. And then I just try and sleep for 3 hours. So I don't even think about work. Sometimes I have to. Sometimes I just lie down for as long as I can, an hour or 2, if I'm out on the road. I recently bought a tube, or a couple of years ago, bought a tube called, I think it's pronounced Migrastick or something like that. It doesn't stop it, but I just find it's comfortable. I love the smell, the mint, and you just rub it on your temples, and it actually does something. It might only make it 2% better, but it actually, for me, it makes it feel a bit better. Probably one thing that shits me is when I see people like at work or somewhere, or when you go into somewhere, like a shop, and they're, oh sorry, I've got a migraine, and they're like tapping away in the computer, and you're like, bullshit, you've got a headache or a tension headache, which tension headaches can be quite bad too. Migraine, I was mentioning earlier, sounding nauseous. Some people vomit from migraines. When I first started getting migraines, half my body would go numb. My fingers, my lip, half my face. So it was pretty full on. Now, you need to find out what gives you migraines, but as I said, bright lights in the eyes. Stress. I get migraines sometimes from dust. They say cigarette smoke, but I've never noticed that. Sleep, I reckon I get them from not enough sleep, but then I hardly ever have enough sleep. Dark chocolate. That's something that I can 100% say gives you migraine. Another time we went to see Cyndi Lauper and Stevie Nicks, I think it was. It was one of those, at a winery, paid heaps of money. And as I was sitting up in tent, I got a migraine, and it was I was going to go down later, but the migraine was so bad, I was like moaning. But some guy walking past my tent called out, "You okay?" And it wasn't the good kind of moaning. And I was like, I got a migraine. He goes, "Oh, you poor bugger." Anyway, this tunnel I'm walking through here, it's a water tunnel. Thought I'd check it out one more time. It's about to be converted into an underground pipe. Alright, thanks for listening now. I know I've been doing a bit of topside stuff lately, but I'll be getting back into the drain soon. I've got a few racked up and I've got a few planned. hopefully I'll be able to do them weekly. The summer I might do one new one every week, and I might redo a classic one or something every second week, because it's a lot of work. But anyway, thanks for listening. Yeah, if you've got any suggestions, I can't believe I'm saying this, leave them in the comments. Things that help you with migraines. All right, cheers. Speak to you soon.